What's up, YouTube? What's up, Facebook? I appreciate you guys so much. I'm here with my friend Rachel Maddow, but jokes aside, there is a new study out about natural immunity and prior COVID infection as in reference to the Delta variant, Delta surge. So I wanted to talk about that. That's the main story. And then I also want to talk about this shocking Newsmax report. We're going to play a clip where a man was not allowed to get a kidney transplant based on vaccination status, which is something to I wouldn't say look forward to, but to look at going on in this country. So, without further ado, I'm just going to hold it up because I don't want to be misconstrued as a guy out here making up his own stuff. So y'all can read that with me on Facebook and YouTube. Ready? That's Reuters, by the way, the trusted mainstream media buddies of ours. Prior COVID infection, more protective than vaccination during Delta surge, the study said. That's what it is. I'm just, I'm going to hold it here for the Facebook fact checkers, right? Maybe we'll just have a whole segment where I just sit here and I don't even say anything. I dress up as a mime and I start miming around speechless. You know what I'm saying? And I just hold it up to the camera. I didn't say this, Mark Zuckerberg. I didn't say this, Susan Wojcicki. I didn't say this, Facebook fact checkers, many of which who are like some random like French agency that decides what we can and can't say. Y'all said it. I'm just going to read the article. So I'm tired of a lot of things, but to be honest, on a positive note, I have a lot of energy this year, So I'm not that tired to be quite honest. I got a tea here. I got lots of energy, okay? You guys can't get me down. I know I get your little tricks. Oh, yeah, to protect your health, we're going to lock down your gym and keep you inside and treat you like an abused show animal at the circus for your health. Yeah, right. Okay, that's why I've been working out. You guys can't see on Facebook, but sun's out, guns out. You know what I'm saying? It's hot outside. I got my tan. I don't identify as white. I love my white Europeans, but I identify as golden, So if you're in the media, first of all, don't talk about me. But if you do, address me as golden boy. My pronouns are golden and boy. So, I prefer that because in the sun, I don't look like a white wall. I look like a golden boy. But, skin tone aside, we love all people here. We don't care. We got fans from Nigeria, Israel, I'm sure Palestine. If they could fire up an internet connection, they're out here tuning in. We got Ireland in the house. We got, South America, all the continents. Okay. We all hold hands and make fun of you guys on this platform. It's a nice, diverse group of people who know what's going on and are not fooled by your constant nonsense. Speaking of nonsense, I also am going to play this clip. It says face masks make you more attractive. There's a Cardiff study from Cardiff University. Reuters is reporting also. Face masks can make you more attractive, especially a surgical face mask, according to a new study. Yeah. A study from Cardiff University. It's like, is there a study for everything? A study from Anomaly University finds if you put a garbage bag on your head and dance around to the Monster Mash song that you're more attractive to like 20 psychopaths who we studied. That's a joke, by the way. That's parody. Don't ever do that. Don't put a garbage bag on your head. But it's like, what was your, target audience for that? They're like, oh yeah, he looks way better with a surgical mask on. It's like, I have a random fetish for people who dance to Monster Mash wearing like a garbage bag on their head. Monster. I'm like, yeah, to me, it's more attractive. So it must mean it's true for everybody. It's like, just stop already with this gaslighting. It's like, we get it. You love masks. You love surgical masks. You love saying that cloth masks are amazing for a year. And then you say that they don't work as well as you thought they said. And then I repeat it. And then YouTube gives me a strike and refuses to take away. We get it. We get how you feel. But do you really have to put out a study for it? I have 2,000 people here. A study of 2,000 people think you guys have lost your minds. Okay, is that a study? All right, sorry. Let's get to the story. Reuters, once again, can't make this stuff up, folks. I don't write for the mainstream media. Prior COVID infection more protective than vaccination during Delta surge. U.S. study. So the Delta surge was that. Do you guys remember Delta? Omicron. Whoa, Omicron. It's a little more mild, but it's way more widespread. Delta, it was that. Sorry, I don't mean to get too loud. I apologize if that was too close. But, the Delta is the one that, hit you like an airline. Speaking of airline, what's going on with the telecommunications technology? Looks like they're having some issues here in America. But anyway, this is the Reuters report, January 19th. This stuff just came out. People who had previously been infected with COVID-19 were better protected against the Delta variant than those who were vaccinated alone, suggesting that natural immunity was a more potent shield than vaccines against the variant, California and New York health officials reported on Wednesday. Whoa, hold on. We gotta run that whole paragraph back because it sounds like, to me, it sounds like Reuters, New York, California. I know they're liberal, but or they pretend to be, but in general, it's like it sounds like they've been listening to old horse dewormer or Rogan or something. With these type of conspiracy theories. I'm just kidding, but it's like, oh man, what are you listening to the Joe Rogan report over there? Let me read that back because I don't know if I read it right. Reuters. People who had been previously infected with COVID-19 were better protected against the Delta variant than those who were vaccinated alone, suggesting that natural immunity was a more potent shield than vaccines against the variant, California and New York health officials reported on Wednesday. Protection against Delta was highest, however, among people who were both vaccinated and had survived a previous COVID infection, and lowest among those who had never been infected or vaccinated, the study found. Nevertheless, vaccinations remain the safest strategy against COVID-19, according to the report published by the U.S. CDC Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report. So I guess they found that if you had natural immunity against Delta, you were more protected than somebody who was vaccinated and didn't have that natural immunity. But then when the vaccinated person got natural immunity, they found that they had more protection. It's just crazy. It's like there's an assault on our immune system in the sense of like you're not allowed to take care of yourself. You're not allowed to go to the gym. They're trying to block you from getting groceries and restaurants if you don't comply to their orders. But then they put out a study and it's like, yeah, when we compared vaccinated people who had never been infected and people who had been infected, the people who had been infected had more immunity than the vaccine. I know they're going to gaslight people and say, well, this is how we always wanted it, right? And I'm not saying they're bad or they're good. Some people are out there making documentaries eating 3 McDonald's hamburgers a day. You know what I'm saying? You do you. Everybody has their own diet and exercise strategy. This is mine. I just want to be left alone, and I don't subscribe to all this food and drugs that they're shoving down people's throats and stuff. But however, I don't care what people do. With that being said, they're going to now act like this is always what we thought. We always thought the vaccine was going to prevent against hospitalizations. And when it comes to transmissions, yes, if you had natural immunity, you're more protected than somebody who's vaccinated and uninfected. But if you're infected and vaccinated, you have more protection. And that's always what we really intended on. This is like a huge success. And listen, I would never on my platform say that this wasn't a huge success, because you're literally not allowed. We don't have free speech in this country. We are under in a medical authoritarian regime in which you just have to act like, Donald Trump's Operation Warp Speed was equivalent to Willy Wonka creating the everlasting gobstopper. And Joe Biden is like Willy Wonka's little sidekick who helped it happen. And Anthony Fauci is certainly not an Oompa Loompa. That would be rude. So we'll say Anthony Fauci, maybe he's the Blueberry Girl or something. But anyway, we love all the characters in this funny movie, and it's the greatest thing ever. That's what you have to say. You have to act like this is like the greatest medical achievement ever. You can exaggerate like Trump and say you saved 50, 100 million lives. It's like, oh my God, it's the greatest medical achievement. But you can't say that this wasn't what they wanted, or you can't say that it's been a huge failure, because it hasn't. It's just been so good for but anyway, so they can't gaslight you into thinking that they never said otherwise. Here's them once again, the clips of them literally saying otherwise for a while. And once again, fact check, what she's about to say is false. It's not true. They probably wouldn't fact check it anyway, but I need to tell you that this is an old clip of Rachel Maddow a year ago lying to her audience, or at least making a mistake based on data available, as they would say.
That the virus stops with every vaccinated person.
By the way, I don't know who added this music. They're going to be like, it's edited out of context. I don't know. Someone put clown music in the background. I'm sorry. It wasn't me. Get over it.
A vaccinated person gets exposed to the virus. The virus does not infect them. The virus cannot then use that person to go anywhere else.
Obviously, that's not true at all. Why did Rachel Maddow spew that obvious lie to her audience? Well, this very sane, imagine if you were in a hospital room and she comes in. Everything's going to be fine. I'm the CDC director. We have it all under control. Body language alert, body language alert. I would be like, is there like a different hospital you could transfer me to with a, you know, a medical advisor who didn't drink AOC juice, you know, popping out of the whatever. This is why Rachel Maddow said that, because the CDC director went on MSNBC and literally told her that. So
our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick, and that it's not just in the clinical trials, but it's also in real world data.
Real world data. So, she told Rachel Maddow that. Rachel Maddow said that. And then just a few months later, when reality really hit, here's what she said.
Our vaccines are working exceptionally well. They continue to work well for Delta with regard to severe illness and death. They prevent it. But what they can't do anymore is prevent transmission.
So they can't do it anymore. Anymore? Was that something that happened? Like she's acting as if it was like a thing? Was it a thing for like a month, 2 months in the trials and the clinical data and the real world data? It looks like with Omicron, with Delta, it looked like that didn't really happen. As far as maybe minors, over the course of the data, minor transmission percentages, maybe. But as far as millions of people catching it, like they're going to gaslight people and be like, this is a success, guys. This is exactly what we wanted. Even though you could look up video clips of them literally saying like what they wanted to happen and what they thought was going to happen. And once again, the report today is saying that if you are unvaccinated against Delta, according to California and New York health official data, you had more natural immunity than somebody who was vaccinated alone without catching the virus. Of course, once again, I have to be fair in this study. If you caught the virus and had vaccine, they're saying you had more protection. But a vaccinated person, no immunity versus a natural immunity person, even Reuters, New York, and California are admitting that their data said in the Delta variant that the unvaccinated immunity person was provided more protection than the vaccinated uninfected person. All right, speaking of people pretty much admitting that this isn't exactly what they wanted and they're working on new things that do what they originally said that they were probably going to do a year ago, here's Bill Gates saying that on record. And there's a lot of fact checks around this. And it's like, I get people are lying and taking it out of context, but face value, it is what it is. Like here's our friend Willie Gates. Thinking of which, I had like a dream or a nightmare last night where I just remembered it now. I had a dream where I was like with my friends and I was having like a sleepover camp out and I came out of my room. I'm not even joking. This is a dream I just remembered I had last night. I came out of like my little like cabin at like 1:30 a.m. and Bill Gates was standing there. And I looked at him and I was like, and he was like, hey, and he hopped in like a convertible and he drove off. And I was nervous when I was like, it was just me and Bill Gates like in an open place. I was like, and then people started accusing me in my dream. They're like, oh, you know Bill Gates. That means you work with him. I'm like, I don't know Bill Gates. I just ended up in a cabin. He was there. Like, that was my dream last night. Crazy stuff. But anyway, let's not make this a dream show. Okay, this is a news show. But I just thought of that. I was like, what the heck? What the, as Jesse Lee Peterson would say, what the? All right.
To somebody who has not been vaccinated.
Let's listen to Bill.
To somebody who can't get vaccinated.
We didn't have vaccines that block transmission. We got vaccines that help you with your health, but they only slightly reduce the transmissions. We need a new way of doing the vaccines.
He said, I quote, we need a new way of doing the vaccines, and you could tell with his body language. He's like, we got vaccines. They helped you with your health, but, they didn't block transmission. And the reason, I know they're not going to say it, but the truth is, listening to them all last year, they were hoping, just like everybody, when you make a vaccine, Google the definition of vaccine. It includes immunity. If you're immune, you don't catch the virus, whether it be from, a year, 2 years. Some of the vaccines work for 10 years. They say 20 years. I mean, this one, I think most people were hoping that they took it and they never got sick, because usually that's what a vaccine does. So they said all this stuff last year. They're like, this is what we're hoping for. This is what the data says. This is what we want. If you get the vaccine, you can go back to normal. You can take off your mask. None of that happened. Now they're like, well, here's what we can tell you. It protects you from hospitalizations and deaths, and you are more protected than somebody unvaccinated who never had the virus. But according to the Delta surge, you're actually not protected as much or don't have as much immunity as somebody who caught the virus and had natural immunity. they're almost trying to gaslight people as if natural immunity doesn't exist. Like your very complicated immune system fighting a virus, creating antibodies. Like it seems like they're kind of ignoring that science, not like the real scientists doing the data like I just read, but the political people on television who are just spewing, get this thing or you're a terrible person. They're not trying to have any nuance to it. But anyway, he's like it kind of admitting there, it sounds like, at least to me, like, we got them for you. They helped a little bit. They did this with the trip, but like, we need a new way of doing it, he said. And I think the goal of every vaccine is not to slightly protect you against hospitalizations, not to cover up all the reports of side effects and athletes who are posting on their Instagram and Facebook that they're now out of the season because of it and saying that it doesn't exist, while these companies damn well know it does exist, no matter how small or rare it is, because they protect themselves through the PrEP Act from legal liability for it. So they're gaslighting the whole world into acting like there are no consequences for some people, and that's just absolutely not true. And then they're also trying to say like, oh no, this is like the best. This is what we wanted. And then Bill Gates like, well, I mean, we should work on new ones that actually like do what other vaccines do, basically. But once again, speak to your local doctor or the very trustworthy, very sane and mentally reasonable CDC director, because I do not give health advice, and I don't, I'm not trying to step on anyone's feet. I'm just saying, there's video footage of them saying what they thought it was going to do, admitting that it didn't do that, and then admitting that they believe that there needs to be, once again, so we don't take it out of context, let's just listen to him speak.
With your health, but they only slightly reduce the transmissions. We need a new way of doing the vaccines. We didn't get much in the way of therapeutics. Dexamethasone and now molnupiravir could help, but way less than should have been the case.
Is that something anybody else does when they're like doing a public speech? Like Bill Gates is, before we play this clip from Newsmax, serious stuff. Bill Gates is like his body language. He's always like, well, like that's like his like vibe. And then he's just like that's not something that you do when you're public speaking. And listen, I make mistakes. You look side to side. Like people do natural stuff. Not everybody has like full blown confidence and like, is a good public speaker, but like he does these things that I never seen anybody do. He's just like, well, and then he's like, well, he's like, we could have like that's like a real sign, I don't know what it says, but I've never thought of doing that during a debate. Like lean my head over and then like scratch the back of my head and look down like in the middle of speaking. But I don't know what that means. I'm not like a professional body language expert. I just find his whole like vibe pretty funny as an outsider looking in, which is all we really are, really outsiders looking in. But, here's on Newsmax. Apparently this guy, they claim to have recorded a phone call where they were blocking him from getting a kidney transplant because he was unvaccinated. I wonder if they asked if he had natural immunity and are following any semi-science. But, oh, yeah, it's Omicron. I forgot. That was for Delta, folks. This is Omicron, so it doesn't matter anymore. But here you go.
Exclusive phone call recorded by Shamgar and given to us. It's between him and a doctor at that transplant center. Listen.
Our policy is in order to have people active on the transplant list and get a transplant, you need to be fully vaccinated. So you don't want to move forward?
I'd rather die of kidney failure.
Okay. So this may be a crossroads at your evaluation, because there's not going to be any exception to that. The science is pretty clear on the vaccine.
And I just had COVID and I got over it. I'm not scared of it. It's like you have a 99.99997% chance to survive. Like requiring a vaccine.
That's all pretty inaccurate data, but it's obviously your choice, but it's not your choice if you want to be active on the list.
To be fair, I think he messed up his percentages there. He was like 99.999. Like I think he put too many nines. Let's be honest. I think he messed his decimal game up a little bit there. But I get what he was saying. But he's like 9999. It's like, bro, too many nines. You know what I'm saying? Keep it to like a 239 minimum. But I get what he was saying. Sorry. I just have to be accurate, or else they're going to be like, anomaly, spreading misinformation about the decimals. Like, no, I get it. The guy added too many nines. He got carried away. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay. We all do.
She summed it up at the end. It's not your choice at all. I mean, it's unbelievable to listen to her there.
Right. All right. So That's crazy stuff. And if you look up this stuff, it's already happening. They're kicking nurses out of work. They're hiring back vaccinated workers who have the infection or test positive. They're kicking people out of certain health plans. Like, it's already begun. And I don't want to really get on my high horse because but at the same time, I do think I have somewhat influence. And I do think, believe it or not, a lot of politicians and a lot of people in right-wing media listen to me. And, not trying to toot my own horn, but a lot of people, they don't have creativity in their own narrative and they kind of just regurgitate stuff. And, I know that it has an impact when some people come with a creative angle rather than just kind of riding the coattails of other people. And the Democrats clearly are the leaders of medical authoritarianism. They don't care. They're willing to literally do anything. And I'm not trying to scare people or overdo it because there's liars on the left and the right. I'm not trying to be this partisan hack or anything, but I've never seen anything like it. I'm not sure when these people are going to stop. Like, left-wing journalists are writing that they should take your kids in California. They're writing that they should throw people, in detainment facilities in Utah. They're starting to really push this narrative that you are a criminal, you are a horrible person, you are a danger to society if you're a peaceful, nonviolent citizen who works out, takes care of yourself, and just refuses to be a lab rat for Pfizer, Moderna, and never-ending boosters that the more the data comes out, the more we learn. And, the long-term trials are underway. You are a part of them because this is new technology. It's never been rolled out to hundreds of millions of people. And we're going to find out exactly how this lasts over time, just like we did listening to Rochelle Walensky and Maddow. They said, oh, you're not going to catch the virus. Yeah, that lasted for a few months max. And then that wasn't true. And everything they're saying now, it's based off of their guesses, their data, and all of that changes, obviously. But, this is the biggest threat right now to our country. Yes, there's other things that you could talk about. I'm not trying to hog the conversation. But as far as medical tyranny and what they're doing, they're willing to take your kids, throw you in prison. We've never seen anything like this. It's the number one issue. And I want to say this clearly. One, in November, I will vote Republican. Clearly, this party, as much as you hate them, as phony as they are when it comes to certain things that are important, they're the only thing blocking us from ending up like Canada or Australia or Austria. Clearly, the GOP doesn't believe in all of this stuff, even though they're pathetic and weak on it. I'll still vote for these pathetic, weak losers. No offense, but offense taken if you want, because you're too weak. But I identify that you're the better of the lesser of two evils, and you are the only thing standing in the way from them probably trying to arrest me over for the charge of being extremely golden, saying working out, exercising, healthy, cardio, mental health, being everything that they're not. These disgusting, degenerate, they look like shriveled up over string beans. And I don't care that they do. I'm just saying it's the fact that they're trying to preach health to me and Joe Rogan is laughable. But anyway, this is where they're going. So I'm going to vote for these people, but I'm going to make it clear like I have been, and I'm going to keep pushing this narrative. DeSantis, regardless of his shortcomings and what you might not like about him, he has gone from somebody that no one cares about to literally somebody that is probably more popular than Trump right now. Why did he do that? How did he do that? Is it everybody else's fault? Is there a conspiracy? No, it's because Ron DeSantis did what no other Republicans had the brains or the common sense or the basic decency to do, which is identify the number one threat to our country, medical tyranny, and make it a priority of what he does, how he governs, and maybe even more important than that, how he leads, right? Trump doesn't have systemic power right now, but his voice is perhaps the most powerful one in the world. He's like Donald Trump, he's got hundreds of millions of followers across the world. And DeSantis did what him, Ronna McDaniel, the GOP, and pretty much nobody in the Republican Party seems to do, which is act like the number one issue is the number one issue. It's so important. And Ron DeSantis gets that, speaks about it, governs against it, and makes it a priority almost every time he talks. That's why he's gone from here to here. When it comes to the GOP and Trump, I get mail from them. I've spoken about it before. I got mail from probably the RNC pretending to be Trump or something. Patriots, we need your help. It's probably not Donald Trump. I doubt he wrote it. But in general, whoever wrote it, they're trying to gaslight me and every other Republican voter into thinking that medical tyranny is not a top 10 issue. They're naming all this stuff, and I'm reading the mail that they gave me, give me your money, Patriots. We need your money bad. And it's they're naming all these things in medical tyranny, forced masking, forced vaccination, none of these things, kicking people out of hospitals, taking away gyms and spas. None of this was on it at all. It didn't even exist on the newsletter. So I'm why is the GOP trying to gaslight me and everybody else who votes for them into thinking that medical tyranny is not the number one issue. It absolutely is. And I'm going to tell you real quick, calmly, hopefully people don't get upset, why we're in this predicament. When it comes to stopping medical tyranny at the source, when it was first arriving, the GOP caved on almost every issue. They caved systemically, they caved policy-wise, they caved on bills, on acts, on executive orders, on emergencies. Everything that Democrats and Fauci wanted them to do, they did it in March and April and May and June. And it wasn't until May and June that people like Georgia, Governor Kemp started pushing back a little bit. And the national GOP and Trump was not thrilled about that. They told them basically like, we'll let you do it, but we're not happy with it. So when push came to shove, they had no problem not being libertarians and Republicans. They had no problem being socialists, communists, authoritarians, leftist policy, rolling out all this money printing and incentives to hospitals. So they established this medical authoritarian regime minus the mandates was all established bipartisan by Democrats and Republicans. So when push comes to shove, Republicans are too weak. And then now that all this damage is done, now that all this damage is rolled out, now that there's certain things that are going across all 50 states, the hospitals, et cetera, they're starting to abuse people and really treat people poorly that are unvaccinated, even in Louisiana, kicking them off health plans. The GOP does like bare minimum. They're like, we'll leave it up to your choice, we'll just, and it's like, well, a lot of people are going to choose to keep doing this. So it's like, I wouldn't mind if you left it up to choice in March 2020, but you do communism, socialism, authoritarianism, and leftism when we need you. And then when we need you to reverse it because you went too far down that path, you guys just like put up your hands and you're like, we'll just let the corporations eat us alive and the counties eat us alive and the, Biden eat us alive. And it's just so frustrating where it's like, that's why I want people to, do what they want if you don't want to vote or you want to vote for whoever. But I'm voting Republican because I find that they're the lesser two evils. But the jig does not end there. It's not everybody but Trump and just the rhinos. He's in on it. The GOP, they don't really have this strategy that DeSantis has. That's why DeSantis is lapping around them because they can't seem to figure it out. And I'll tell you what, a lot of people, I believe it's like an elitist sort of thing where they might not care about it as much as you, but also you have to understand when you're like a celebrity or a billionaire like Donald Trump or something, like it doesn't really affect you that much. You don't have like, oh, I got to send my kid to a public school or else he's going to be forced masked and forced vaccinated. If that were the case, I'm sure Donald Trump would be just as loud as Ron DeSantis or myself, but he's a billionaire and Barron Trump can literally fly wherever he wants and go wherever he wants. And I'm sure that Donald Trump does not force him to wear a mask all the time because he's flying on private jets, where I truly believe, and not trying to be rude to the Trump family, I think this entire time from March 2020 until now, he's been totally out of the loop with what we're going through with this medical tyranny because he doesn't have to do it. When he was on stage talking about stuff in March, April, and May, he didn't have to wear a mask. He didn't have to get locked in his house. He got to speak for 3 hours and do his job totally normally. It's everybody else that had to suffer. So I'm not blaming him, but I think people really need to, one, realize the Democrats are the number one threat. The Democrats are going full authoritarian with medical tyranny, but also, two, the GOP, Trump, there is no magic secret plan that they have to rescue from all this stuff. They're weak. When push comes to shove, they're nowhere to be found. When you need them to reverse all the damage they did, they're going to pretend like it didn't happen, right? It's inflation. It's like, yeah, but what about reversing all this stuff? And I'm already hearing in Virginia, Youngkin says, oh, you can do what you want. And then Democrats like, well, we still want to do the mask mandate. And the schools are, we don't have systemic powers. Do you think the hospitals are Republican? No, I'm sure they're mostly Democrat. Are the teachers and the teachers unions and the schools, are they mostly Republican? No, they're mostly Democrats. So because they screwed up so much, we have no systemic power, that we're going to get eaten alive by the hospital system, the schools. And outside of homeschooling your children, which is an option if you make enough money or you have the time, myself, as a healthy, I can't imagine what other people are going through. I'm super healthy. I'm super young for the most part. I'm not that young, but 32 is not old, especially like once you get older, you realize it's pretty young. But in general, it's like I'm not nervous because I don't want to let them get into my mental state. I want to stay confident. But when push comes to shove, if I needed to go get some sort of treatment or I needed to go get some sort of surgery, am I even allowed to in this psychotic country? Like, are they going to try to discriminate against me, kick me out based on my race? You know what I'm saying? They are already doing race-based treatments. They're already doing vaccinated versus unvaccinated treatments. So it's a very creepy time for people, especially if you have comorbidities or you have something going on where you are getting absolutely bullied by these people in the medical industry, and they're pretty much threatening to let you die. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't get the vaccine, you can't get the kidney transplant. That's equivalent to being like, I don't care if you die. I'm not even trying to do my job and save you anymore. You are the scum of the earth. You are below me. You are a danger to society, and you can't follow basic orders to make yourself healthier. The obvious comparison, which doesn't matter because they're never going to listen, would be something like obesity. For most people, it's very, very controllable. It just takes discipline, diet, and exercise to get to a certain level, even if it's losing 5 or 10 pounds. You know, do they discriminate against obese people? Do they discriminate against smokers who get lung cancer or tobacco chewers that get something with their face? You know, of course not. They're like, well, you made bad decisions, but this is our job to help everybody. You know, we're here to help the whole world, no matter how fat or skinny, no matter black or white, no matter smoker or not. Yeah, you could have done a lot of things to make yourself healthier. You didn't, but that's what we do. We're here to get you back there, give you advice, send you home, let you do your own thing, but advise you to do the right thing. That's not how the country is anymore. And this is what really bothers me. And I don't care. Once again, I don't care how much heat I take. I don't care because I know I'm right. I know I'm on the right side of history, and I'm not one of these goofy followers that just needs like a leader to tell me what to think. I can think for myself. But this has been happening for 2 years now. Since March 2020, they have been ushering out this crazy medical tyranny. You can't go to a funeral. You can't go to somebody to see someone in the hospital. You know, your significant other, whoever it is, has to be there alone, die alone, you know, recover alone, whatever it is. This has been evil for 2 years. And you hear that how much I talk about it. When you listen to Ron DeSantis, he's on it. When you listen to most Republicans, they're gaslighting you into thinking it's not existing. Like, Trump's running people in circles for all the things that he cares about, talking about his 2016 stuff. When I listen to him talk or Ronna McDaniel send out a mail, they're trying to gaslight me as if all this stuff hasn't been happening for 2 years, not just under the Biden administration. They dropped the ball in March. It's been here since March 2020. And I'm not blaming you. I'm still going to vote for you idiots. I'm still going to, you know, support your dumb party that doesn't do anything except pass speech laws for a foreign country and then call everybody racist if they notice that they're doing that. I'm still going to vote for you losers because I understand, sadly, you're the only thing standing in the way for me ending up in a Canadian or, Austrian style psychotic system. So I have no choice. But my voice and my platform is not a cheerleading organization. My voice and my platform is not to brainwash Republicans into thinking that these people have a real strategy when they really don't. My platform is to stand up for teachers, workers, students, kids, parents who are watching their entire world disappear into some authoritarian black hole. And I'm supposed to watch somebody talk on television for 2 hours and mention mandates for half a minute and then talk about themselves. I'm not stupid enough to do that. I'm not weak enough to do that. I'm not immoral enough to do that. I'm not a follower enough to do that. And I will continue to push this narrative to Trump, to the GOP, to Ronna McDaniel, to everybody outside of DeSantis who can't seem to grasp this simple concept. This is the number one threat that's facing our country. They have ruined the school system. They have ruined the hospital system. They're literally telling us, we don't care if you die because you won't listen to our stuff. We don't need a disgusting man on television selling booster shots. That's the opposite of what we need. We need a real leader who's going to talk about this stuff, not mention it for half a minute so he doesn't get booed off a stage because he's tired of getting booed. Somebody who actually cares about it, somebody who identifies the threat, and somebody who's willing to not only push back vocally and leadership-wise, but push back systemically when they get into office. And I'm sorry, I don't care who doesn't want to hear this, but if you compare people that people put into power, let's look at Ron DeSantis real quick. Who's his Surgeon General? Ron DeSantis chose a frontline doctor who was at the Capitol protesting the lockdowns in 2020. That's who Ron DeSantis put as a frontline as a Surgeon General. He picked somebody that is totally against mandates, totally not compromised by big pharma, and the medium hates him. Check out Joseph Lopata. This man was on the front lines, putting his career on the line to stand up against all of this tyranny in 2020. And Ron DeSantis has rewarded him with the most powerful health position in Florida. Who did Donald Trump put as a Surgeon General? An idiot. I'm sorry, but that guy was a total clown. I watched him in 2020 on stage. He made absolutely no sense. And Donald Trump put a pharmacy lobbyist at the head of HHS. So if you want to know why all of this stuff is here right now, it didn't start in 2021. It started in 2020. How did Donald Trump let this happen? Well, his executive order in 2019 helped pave the way. His terrible, taking $1 million from Pfizer for his inauguration and then putting a pharmacy lobbyist at the most powerful position in HHS, which really oversees all of these NIH, CDC, etc. Like, this man blew it, okay? And people want to act like it's no. Put somebody in there that has proven that they actually realize what's going on. Trump is like a great car salesman. He sells the vaccine, he sells the booster, make America great again. But when push came to shove, he didn't pardon anybody cool. He didn't put people in the right positions. Every time he put somebody wrong in the right position, he made a show out of it. Oh, this woke general is so stupid. General Milley's a son of a gun. It's like, you put him there. You were the one who put him into place. Like, you must be the idiot because everybody you choose turns on you, turns on the country. You put pharmacy lobbyists, make a whole scene out of it. I'm sorry. I'm not going to act like they're the same. I'm not going to act like I want them back. I want somebody who's going to take seriously medical tyranny. Trump didn't do it in 2020. Trump didn't do it in 2021. In 2022, he finally started getting booed, and he finally got the memo not to do it with passion, not to do it with truth, not to use his voice to really, arm the people with information, knowledge, and strength, but to just be like, oh, I don't want to get booed anymore. I'll talk about mandates for a little bit, but then I'll go with my usual stick. I'm not buying it. I haven't bought it for a year. And to be quite fair, not buying it is probably saved my career because I didn't, follow him to his event when he was selling Moderna vaccines. And I'm so glad I didn't, because that whole thing obviously clearly was a setup, a setup to, silence patriots, stop the movement against medical tyranny that now is being revitalized thanks to, believe it or not the GOP, not Donald Trump. It's being revitalized thanks to Joe Rogan and Robert Malone. You know what I'm saying? Joe Rogan, who's really a traditional like Bernie Sanders liberal who just likes guns and elk meat, and Robert Malone, who is a mRNA technology innovator, who I don't even know if he's registered to the Democratic Party or the Republican. These are the people that are now revitalizing the activist movement in our country. It's not the party that we vote for. So I'm not apologetic at all. I'll apologize when I'm wrong. But my goal is not to make people vote for the Democratic Party. It's the exact opposite. But once Republicans get into power, if they can again, I believe that they will, we need to make sure that these people hold their ground. They're not doing enough. They don't care. It's not a priority. And it's really, really sick. I spoke to a friend yesterday, my high school friend, and he told me that his daughter's been forced masked for 2 years, to the point she doesn't even remember what it's like to live without a mask on. I believe she's like 5 or 6, or I'm not really sure, but it's like these kids are growing. When you're that old, you're learning how to speak. You're learning how to smile. You're learning facial cues. You're learning everything. I mean, you're literally learning the English language. You're putting a barrier over their face, so it's harder to hear. It's harder to talk. It's impossible to be confident. I'm one of the most confident people I know. I mean, when I have to put a mask on, I feel like a submissive slave. It takes away my whole aura. It takes away my whole energy. It takes away everything. It takes away my ability to smile to people. It's evil. It's ridiculous. And with all of the data and everything that's going on, they can fact check everything they want. And CDC says this and CDC says that. Yeah, I just showed you what the CDC said last year. But you are raising a generation of children who don't even know what it's like to live with a face. And I have zero respect and zero support and zero, I'm following. If you can't be a better leader than me, I'm not following you. I follow the Lord. I follow Jesus Christ. I'll follow God. If you're a better leader than me, I'll follow you. I'm a smart person. I go in a pack with somebody. If you're 20 times stupider than me, 20 times weaker than me, not talking about any of this stuff, bragging about yourself, you're not my leader. You're a circus clown to me. You're a big pharma circus clown who has proven at crunch time for humanity, you'll side with big pharma over Republicans and the American people. And I'm the bad person for realizing that? No, I'm not an idiot. I'm not a follower. Speaking of all this masking stuff, I'm just going to play a clip and read it for you and let you hear it. I don't have the video. It says face masks can make you more attractive, says a study from Cardiff. Let's listen to it. It says face masks make you more attractive according to research from Cardiff University. Images of men wearing a blue surgical face mask were perceived as being the most appealing.
What we found is that in the past, when people put a surgical face mask on, this cues people to think of there's a disease present, and that will make people judge the face as being less attractive. What happens now is that when people see someone with a mask, they're no longer being cued that there's a disease there, But what they're doing is they're seeing people as being more attractive.
What? I'm going to keep playing this clip. It's like usually people were, they thought when they saw someone with a mask, there's a disease around. But now, thanks to media conditioning and nonstop mandates, people look at someone with a mask and think, oh, I don't think of a disease around. I think of more attractive. Wow, this guy, he's got to have like a 5,000 IQ. I'm getting smarter just listening to the wizardry of Mr. Cardiff University here. All right, let's keep playing it. 43 women were asked to rate the attractiveness of images of 43 women. Okay, here's the study. Oh, we're going to put out a Reuters study that says face masks. 43 people. I have, combined with YouTube, I have pretty much 3,000 people watching this. Is there 50 people who agree with me? Oh my God, what a clowny study. All right, well, let me guess. Were any of them like conservative or normal, or were they all like psychotic, like liberal arts degree, like feminists who, watch Rachel Maddow? Who are these 43 women? All right, 43 women were asked to rate the attractiveness of the images of male faces. Without a mask, wearing a plain cloth mask, wearing a surgical blue mask, covering their face with a book. Lewis says the sample size was large enough to draw conclusions. Yeah.
The experiment took place in February 2021.
By the way, I wish you could see what this guy looked like, but I'm not going to say anything.
When there was currently within the UK a face mask mandate, people were required to wear face masks, so people will be seeing face masks a lot more.
Lewis says the global health crisis has changed the way people think about wearing masks.
So one of the things we looked at was whether the effect was only present there for unattractive faces, or whether it was present for attractive faces as well. And what we find is that covering up the bottom half of the face is, yes, it does improve the attractiveness of unattractive faces, but equally, even for the highest set of attractive faces within our database, it still increased the attractiveness. So
he's saying it's not just ugly people that increase the attractiveness. It's the most handsome and good-looking people. It increases attractiveness too. Think about the level of gaslighting and the stupidity and brainwash that you have to be like, oh yeah, even if you're a 10 out of 10, wearing a surgical mask makes you more attractive. Guys, your smile is perhaps the most important part of your face. I mean, eyes are important. You see, your nose, breathe, mouth, speak. But as far as like your smile, it's really like your energy. Some people say it's your trademark. It's, it's part of your brand. But it's really like, to take away this much of your face, it definitely doesn't make you more attractive if you're, even if you're not attractive. Everybody has their own vibe. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's all good. It's all, everyone's got like a smile. Even if you see someone that you're not like sexually attracted to and they smile to you, it's such a great feeling. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't judge people on their smile based on how hot they are. It's like a smile is so important. It's nice. It definitely makes you more attractive when you're happy versus like a sad grouch. You know what I'm saying? Like personality definitely makes you more attractive too. If you're just like, it's like, ugh. But then if you're like super nice, it raises your percentages up. You're like, man, that person is such a vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like, your smile, your personality, like that can really up you. But this guy, he's like, oh yeah, my sample size was big enough. 40 something people. Dude, this guy is, these are these professors. They think their shit doesn't stink. Like this guy, no offense, but obviously he's not in shape. And it's just like, he doesn't look bad. I'm not saying he's like a super ugly guy or anything, but it's like, I've determined that, covering your breathing holes makes you more attractive. And my sample size is big enough to really decide that. It's like, bro, get over yourself. You know what I'm saying? These people literally think their shit doesn't think, well, I did a study. It's like, what about the control group? Oh yeah, we're trying to eliminate that. This is one thing that is so basic in any sort of experiment. So in any sort of experiment like this, you need one group who takes the medicine and one group who doesn't take the medicine. When you're talking about these sample sizes they're doing, to me, the best data so far is out of Israel because everybody there is taking the Pfizer shot and, they're all on the same shot and it's millions of people. But as far as this global thing or worldwide thing where there's hundreds of millions of people taking this product, there has been no experiment as big as this one that's going on right now with hundreds of millions of taking it. So long-term effects of hundreds of millions of people, there is no study for that. This is the biggest study ever that they're doing, which is the real rollout of it. And they're supposed to look at the data and adjust, et cetera. So in America, are we allowed to have a control group? In every experiment, you need this many people to do it and the exact amount of people who don't do it. But they're trying to get the whole world vaccinated. They're trying to get rid of the control group, which is something that they seem obsessed with doing. And if you look at certain continents, there's one continent that is very under-vaccinated. It's called Africa. Okay. And here's the funny part about that. So we have data out of Africa. Are they doing like 1,000 times worse than everywhere else? They're actually not. In many cases, if you compare their data, they're doing better than places with high vaccination rates. Not all of them, I don't believe, but I mean, that's what's going on. So now what do they say? Do they say, well, we were wrong? No, they say, well, there's many reasons that could be. They're young, it's hot outside. They might not have as many tests, so they're not testing as much. And all of these absolutely could be true. I'm not disagreeing with it. It's like, yes, if you have a younger sample size, that matters. If you have outdoor versus like cold weather, inside with the heat blasting, that makes a difference. Everything makes a difference. But they're not honest enough to admit that they're trying to eliminate equal sample sizes in the other group of the control. Like you need to see it. And maybe this is why they're trying to do it. I'm not saying for sure, but when the data comes out, if everybody listened to Dr. Fauci and Jen Psaki, we wouldn't have this new study that was just in Reuters that said, the unvaccinated that have natural immunity have more protection than the vaccinated without the infection. That is not my opinion. That is not an anti-vaxxer conspiracy theory. That is mainstream data out of California and New York in Reuters. Once again, they're saying if you're vaccinated and had the virus, you have more protection. But how many companies, how many places are trying to, or I tried to for Delta when that was existent or whatever, or rampant? How many of them tried to determine who had natural immunity? Well, if you have natural immunity, and you're vaccinated and have no natural immunity, no one, like very few people actually made any sort of distinction besides that. And I'm going to answer some questions and hang out for a little bit, but it's just so obvious. And I really don't understand how people don't get it yet. Like, I guess it's like emotion, anger, hate, partisan politics, hating the other side, hating Republicans, hating Fox News, hating Rand Paul, to the point where people can't think straight because they're so filled with ignorance, hate, and partisan bias. And if you look up the liberal definition in the dictionary, liberal is supposed to mean somebody who is open to other ideas. When I was growing up, I was just talking about this with my buddy. Liberal meant, okay, I'm open to new culture, new music, new food, traveling. You know what I'm saying? I'm not one of these conservatives who just wants to sit in one state all the time. That's what liberal meant to kids when I was growing up. Like, we're more open. We're more open-minded than our parents. We're more open-minded than the average Republican. That's what liberals used to be, or at least they thought they were. I don't know if it was ever true, but for sure it was way different when I was. Now the modern liberal is not a liberal anymore. They're not like, oh, I love new ideas. Like, I never hated Republicans. I had Republican friends. My friend's dad was a Republican. Like, we never cared. It was like, oh, I don't agree with you, but whatever. We're still friends. I still agree with you on this other stuff. But now liberals are like, if you don't agree with me on every single policy, you're a horrible person. You're a Nazi. You're part of the other side. And it's like, it couldn't be further from the truth, but they don't care. So modern day liberals somehow over the last 10 years got duped into following authoritarianism. Moderate Democrats from 10 years ago, everybody agreed with the First Amendment. Everybody understood that you needed the right to fairly protest. Everybody understood all this stuff. And now all of a sudden you got people trying to snatch kids away from their parents with the state. You got people trying to throw people in camps and facilities or prison because they won't suck up to big pharma. And these were people 10 years ago that were anti-big pharma, and they understood that big pharma was a corporation. These people claim to hate corporations, and that's the most corrupt corporation, in my opinion. They're definitely not, in my opinion, the number one lobbyist in Washington. What is lobbying? They're people who pay off politicians. You got people like Cenk Uygur, from the Young Turks. He's like, we need to get money out of politics. But then he runs PACs himself to raise money to put money back into politics. But we can do it to get the money out of politics. We'll put our money into politics. He's a hypocrite. But also, he talks about, oh my God, money in politics is so corrupt. Hey, Cenk, who's the biggest funder in politics? It's Big Pharma. Big Pharma lobbied Joe Biden. Big Pharma lobbied Bernie Sanders. Big Pharma lobbied, Donald Trump. If you look at how much money they took from health and pharmacy industry, it's quite a bit. And I don't know where those came in or how they get those numbers, but I do know that there are certain pharmacy companies directly giving millions of dollars to presidential candidates for their inauguration, like they did to Trump. And I would highly doubt that Biden somehow didn't get more money. But in general, it's like, how are you going to be Mr. Anti-Corporation, take the money out of politics and call it a conspiracy theory to question the biggest lobbyist in Washington? Liberals have lost their mind. Progressives have lost their mind. Not all of them, but there's a lot of people who get this stuff and are realizing who their allies are. But the average mind frame has gone so far towards authoritarian, it's creepy. Beyond creepy. And it's sad because I'm willing to have a conversation with anybody. I'm like, I'm not a dumb guy. I know my stuff. I've researched a lot. I take care of myself, and I'm willing to talk about health and wealth and medication and everything and be honest and, give you some, be like, yeah, no, that's true. I'm not the type, like there's certain people who, when they debate, they feel like they need to just crush people. You know what I'm saying? And I watched one debate where that happened was, Tucker Carlson versus Cenk Uygur. And this is kind of the difference between someone who's honest and someone who's not. I filmed it. It was Tucker Carlson versus Cenk from the Young Turks. Tucker was trying to be like, listen, not pander, but say, hey, we do agree on this. We do agree on this. And Cenk, it hurt his soul to admit that. Like, he wasn't ready to admit that there were commonalities they had between them. He's like, no. Like you could just tell he's a scumbag. Like, Tucker's like, listen, I don't hate you. I'm willing to admit that we, the progressives and Republicans, agree on this, this, and this. And Cenk, it wasn't about being honest. It was about, I need to oppose him on all costs because I have decided he's a bad person, and I don't want to let anybody watching this understand that we agree on everything. And it's so disgusting and it's so disingenuous. And I feel like that energy, not to bring up old times, but I watched Nick Fuentes debate Styx Hexenhammer 666, Mark of the Beast Boy on Ethan Ralph's network. It was like this debate they had on China. And to me, Nick had that energy too, where he's like, no. We agree on this. We agree on this. And the guy Styx Hexenhammer 666 was like, no. Like, he had that same energy as Cenk. Like, no. I need to be the big boy in the town. And it's like, it's so disingenuous. And it's so like, it's so antithesis to really coming to really a point, because the world in many places is a gray area, right? Like, if we talk about welfare, yes, the welfare system's out of control. The government is abusing it, and it incentivizes some people to not work and do anything, which is bad for them and bad for everybody. However, having zero welfare and zero that, there's going to be a, collateral damage to that. So if I were to talk to a progressive, I would talk like this. Here's what I believe. Here's why I believe it. Here's how I want to help people. Here's my strategy to win. But I will concede, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that it's a gray area. A lot of these people, they don't, no, like they've been trained to think that everybody is so dangerous that disagrees with them. And if you think about the biggest podcast in the world that triggered liberals the most, it just shows you who they really are and what they've really become, which is like somebody that is incapable of free speech, debate, discussion, and wants to blacklist everybody who challenges them. Joe Rogan, he likes guns. He likes America. He likes elk meat. In some ways, he's a conservative. He just doesn't know it. In many ways, he's a progressive liberal. He still believes in these stupid policies that he fled from, but I think he's waking up to it. In general, Joe Rogan is what I would call a middle ground person, not like a flip-flopper, not anymore at least, but like he has some left-wing policies. He's as moderate comes. He is in no way a right-wing extremist. He still holds what I would consider socialist Bernie Sanders type policies. And that's fine. It's not a big deal to have, a balance in what you believe, whatever. Dr. Malone, I don't even know what his political stance is. He could be a Democrat. He could be a Republican. He sounds to me like he's a traditional Democrat who's defected now. But Robert Malone is somebody who is involved in the innovation of mRNA technology, right? So he's not an anti-vaxxer. He took the vaccine. He's not an anti-vaxxer. He helped develop the original mRNA vaccines. And he was in on that team that was like, revitalizing or rather like innovating mRNA. So the left wing is trying to say he's an anti-vaxxer conspiracy theorist, when he's literally, none of these people were involved in the making of the mRNA technology. He was, and he actually took this vaccine. So he's not an anti-vaxxer. He made vaccines. He helped create vaccines. They are trying to shut down a moderate speaking to an mRNA innovator over what's going on. And if you listen to that discussion and you're not a totally full-blown like left-wing authoritarian psycho who is incapable of hearing people who disagree with you, listen to that discussion. Robert Malone it's on Spotify. It's a great listen. Robert Malone is very careful about what he says. He's not like Alex Jones just saying everything. And I'm not trying to knock Alex. I'm just saying like Alex is somebody who's very loose with his words, right? And it makes him very funny. He's a very funny character. Robert Malone is very careful with his words. And so is Joe Rogan. So this discussion was as moderate as it could be. But the conclusion of the discussion was the left wing has gone insane. The medical industry has gone insane. They are covering up information. They are breaking basic, ethics of what it means to do science. And that was the gist of it. So it was two moderate people coming to the conclusion that the left and the medical industry and big pharma has gone too far, which is all pretty obviously true. And they can't handle it. Not only can they not handle it, they can't really break down what they said in it. The only thing I saw was a fact check saying mass formation of psychosis is not real. So what they're saying is Dr. Robert Malone said that we're brainwashing you. We, the people who Robert Malone said are brainwashing you, are not brainwashing you. And this is why we're not brainwashing you. That's the only really fact check they could do because he was so careful with what he said. And he made sure that he was being like honest and fair about it. This is why, before I end this discussion, this is why Joe Rogan is so popular right now. I know a lot of people that don't like him. I know a lot of people that do like him. Some people listen to him, some people don't. As somebody who's listened to him for years, through times when I didn't like what he was saying as much versus now when I really love what he's saying, I really can identify, honestly, why he's so successful. I don't have this ego like I should be bigger than Joe. I get why he's as big as he is. It's because he's a good listener, right? When people are on, he has the ability to shut up a lot of times and let them speak. He's a good question asker. He does better journalism than anybody on Fox News or CNN. He's not even a journalist, but when he has on guests like an NFT person or a digital person or a left winger or right winger, he asks very good questions. I'm not easily impressed, but Joe is among, in my opinion, one of the better question askers and interviewers in the country or in the world right now. So if you want to beat him, you just got to be better than him. But a lot of these people, their media shows, it isn't a 3-hour discussion like Rogan back and forth. You have a long time. You have unlimited time essentially to say what you want. When you watch CNN, it's angled. I'm going to frame you in this way. You have a minute to talk. I'm going to scream in your face and then I'm going to kick you off. And same with Fox News. I mean, Tucker does a good job of listening, but they're on a time limit, right? It's a 30-minute show. Eventually they got to shut you up also and kind of interject what they think. They don't want to let you run away with their platform, but that's old. That way of doing news is not good. I hate it. I don't watch Fox News. I don't watch CNN. I watched Newsmax when I was home. I checked it out. I was impressed with some of their shows, but in general, I like podcasting. I like YouTube. I like social media. I like people that I trust a little more, like Lex Friedman. He interviewed the CEO of Pfizer. Lex Friedman interviewed the NIH director. Those are the two best interviews ever given to the CEO of Pfizer and the NIH director, because Lex Friedman actually asked them legit questions and they looked horrible because they've never been asked real questions before. So, people need to realize, and I think a lot of people do, but this blowing for Joe Rogan is not like, oh my God, he's such a danger to society. He's a great interviewer. He brings on all sorts of people, Snoop Dogg, H.R. McMaster, people you hate, people you love, left-wing people, right-wing people, vegans, meat eaters. He brings on all these people and gives them a platform to speak. And then every now and then we'll push back against what they're saying. And I notice that he does this. Even when I think he agrees, he tries to be as fair as possible a lot of times and give these people would say this. What do you say to this? Well, these people would say this. What do you say to that? He does a great job. And that's what they're trying to get rid of. That's why I can't vibe with these people anymore. I don't care if you like left-wing policies. I don't care if you disagree with me on every front, but will you leave me alone? Will you allow me to disagree with you? Will you allow me to be more honest than you or more successful? No, you won't. Then you're not a liberal. You're like an authoritarian trying to shut down free speech, writing op-eds about taking people's children. Literally in San Francisco Chronicle, they wrote an article saying, I don't remember exactly. If you want equity, let the government of California take your children from you. Like, this was the gist of the article. This is an insane article. I don't care if a liberal or a conservative wrote it. It's psychotic, okay? Who speaks out against that article? Only conservatives, only right-wingers, you know what I'm saying? And Glenn Greenwald and a few progressives who probably don't want to admit it, but they have a lot more in common with the right wing than the left wing now. People like Russell Brand, etc. And a lot of people are afraid, because there's so much negative connotation around right wing and this and that they have to appease their friends. It's like living in a conquered country where you're just show my passport, lie to my friends, not be yourself, have to censor yourself around certain people. It's like living in an authoritarian regime. And this is the decision that I've made and a lot of people have made. And I'm glad I made this in 2017. I didn't change. I just told the truth. I said, you guys are saying all this stuff about Donald Trump as somebody who didn't vote for him in 2016. You're not accurate and you're doing too much and you're being weird and he's not as bad as you're saying he is. And that's why my stuff took off. And now I'm in a position I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, against the left, against the right, because I've built this community of people who want the truth. They don't want partisan stuff. And there's so many people on the left that are surrounded by people at work, people who they can't be themselves because it's not safe to be yourself. Just like it's not safe to live in a liberal city if you don't have a vaccine passport. And to be fair, this happens on the right too. I think especially in, the Trump world, it's not as bad as the left at all. But if you question Donald Trump from a righteous perspective, people have been conditioned by rhinos and neocons and all these idiots that were hating Trump for wrong reasons. They've been conditioned over 3 years to think, Trump is my hero and anybody who questions him must be like Mitch McConnell or CNN. Whenever I question Trump from a right perspective, people just say, oh, you're CNN. They're like malfunctioning because they're so used to people attacking Trump from the left or people who are attacking him from this neocon, perspective, a phony perspective. They've never in their mind had to be challenged, And this is why I support gab.com. This is why I believe that, Getter kicking off Nick Fuentes is dangerous, is because, people don't get challenged on the right from the right all the time. They don't realize that, TPUSA, Getter, like a lot of people around Trump, they are actively kind of kicking people out of the discussion who don't agree with them. And I believe personally, whether you talk about race, whether you talk about social issues, whether you talk about LGBT, whether you talk about demographics, whatever that conversation is, religion, I still believe in the freedom of speech. And I personally believe that you should be able to defend yourself. And if you're right, you look good. You know what I'm saying? And they'll look bad. But you had Getter CEO go on Tim Pool yesterday, and he looked terrible from what I've seen. Why? Because he's wrong. He's a gatekeeper. He's another one of these phony Republicans. Free speech, except not free speech. Why? Can you articulate it? No, I can't. Because the people you're banning, you would lose a debate to. That's why you want to ban them, or else you would have a conversation. So this idea that, kicking people out of the right for challenging the right, a lot of people are conditioned through the hate of Trump from the left to think that everybody's like that. But also they don't realize that a lot of these like cookie cutter right-wing organizations for years now, since 2017, 18, and probably years before I even paid attention, have been gatekeeping and deciding this is what it means to be a Republican. You can come to our event. You could be, a drag queen and come to TPSA. You can, wave the LGBT flag. But, if you say things that he says, like maybe we don't want to support that. And I get it. Like, I understand if you're an organization, you're already they're calling you Nazis, whatever. You don't want certain people like to reflect that on you. So to be fair, I understand where they think they're coming from, right? Like we don't like that person. We don't want you to think we're that person. But at the same time, if you're doing question and answers, a lot of these kids have really good questions. And I have some questions. I think Republicans are too weak on a lot of issues. So it's a very dangerous precedent to set that, these people are bad because they're too far. But it's like all you do is get questioned from the left. I personally want to see you get questioned from a further right perspective and see how you handle it. So a lot of people have been so intellectually lazy that when it gets time to handle these questions, they've never even thought of them. So they're either sending you to the gulags over it, or they're like, no, that's racist, sexist, xenophobic. Like, we don't. And like, dang, it sounds like I'm watching CNN sometimes when you listen to that type of stuff. So it happens a little bit on both sides, but it's just clear that the right has built communities and there's a lot of resistance and more and more people are waking up. And on the left, it's like being in an occupied land. Like, I don't, I talked to my buddy yesterday and I was telling him, I was like, man, I'm definitely older, I'm wiser, I'm not, but like, I haven't really like changed per se. It's like these people have got so crazy. I'm just the type of person, I am not subscribing to this at all. I do not want to live in New York City. I don't want to live in Los Angeles. I would never treat anybody this way. I don't want to be treated this way. I won't be treated this way. And I'm going to live around people who understand that. And if they don't understand that, I'm going to stand up for myself. And if it becomes an everyday sort of thing, then I'm going to move around people. But like, that's my stance. And it's not because I'm being mean. It's because these people that I would totally coexist with, they don't want to coexist with me because of my political views, because of my social views, and because of my medical views. And it really bothers me with the health stuff, not because I care what other people do, but my biggest haters and the people that probably talk the most trash about me, they don't take care of myself. I mean, y'all can see me on this right now. I'm not trying to brag, but the kid's getting yoked out here. I'm doing sit-ups and stuff. I'm trying to get in an Olympic shape. I'm an athlete. I'm great at tennis. I'm great at basketball. I'm great at soccer. I'm very good at this stuff. And you're trying to gaslight people into thinking, oh my God, you're a danger to society. And you don't even work out, exercise, take care of yourself, get sunlight, do any of that stuff. I don't care, but the nerve that you have to come to me and say that you could do that is insane. And also, I don't know that I could even say this, so I'll try to word it in a way that is approving of the authoritarians who run these communication services, but they're trying to say everybody needs to get this product, right? Whether you're 80 years old and overweight, or you're a 21-year-old athlete. Does anybody really think, and this is just a question, do you think that a 21-year-old athlete that is in Olympic shape, what do you think is a bigger threat to them? I'm just going to leave it open. A vaccine side effect or COVID-19? If you're a 21 Olympic athlete, treating them exactly as if they're a 70 or 80-year-old person with 5 comorbidities, they don't allow you to have that discussion, but I know how I feel about it. And I mean, in general, for myself, I'm in fantastic shape. I'm not afraid of anything, but I'm not interested in pills. I don't drink soda anymore. I don't drink high fructose corn syrup. I don't do a lot of things that people do. I don't take pills. I'm not jacked up on pharmacy pills, taking Adderall every day. I don't do any of that stuff. I have a mostly holistic diet. I don't use like chemical soap. I use natural holistic soap. That's my choice. I use different toothpaste for myself. I didn't always do that, but this is how I live my life, and it's working fantastic for me. I don't want to be bothered. So, it's like they're trying to gaslight people into acting like an Olympic athlete needs to do this medical product or else they're a danger to society. You can lie all you want. You can gaslight all you want, but this is a fact. There are dozens upon hundreds now of athletes who have had their seasons ruined because you forced them to get a product that they didn't want to get. And it's happening all over the place. Multiple Olympians have posted, I am out of the season because I listened to these people. I got this. And these are the results. And it's very, very real, no matter how much they cover it up. It's not super common, but it's going to start getting more common if there's every year you got to do it. It's just a math equation. If you do it once, then you do it twice, then you do it 4. By the time you get to 10 times, multiply it by 300 million people or however many people are taking it, that rarity is going to become less and less rare. And, that's on everybody on their own personal stuff. Everything's a risk reward. You got some people who climb mountains. I'm not going to tell you don't climb a mountain. It's more dangerous than taking a vaccine. Like, I would never do that. Do you? But I am not going to get bullied. I'm not going to get abused. And this is the energy I take with me everywhere. I'm done getting abused over all these mandates and stuff. And I let everybody know wherever I am. And hopefully, they feel it in their soul because it's true. It's like, you guys got to leave people alone eventually. And honestly, like, you guys got to preach. You can gaslight millions of people into thinking you're saving them. But what we do here is I don't tell people what medication to take. I don't tell people to or to not take the shot. But what I do talk about is I try to inspire people to take care of themselves a little bit better. And that's something I hear nobody on television talking about, nobody in the media talking about, none of these health experts talking about. And our country is suffering from an opioid crisis that big pharma lied their ass over and got multi-million billion-dollar lawsuits like pending, some won, some lost. The opioid crisis where big pharma helped lie to people and kill, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people died. And, there's lawsuits pending over them, or at least some got settled, some didn't. the fentanyl crisis, fentanyl coming in our country and killing, I don't know, millions of people probably at this point. I don't know how many, but it's sending our life expectancy backwards. So you have two massive crises happening in America that nobody's talking about, the opioid crisis and the fentanyl crisis. And both of them tie back to big pharma, the same thing that you're trying to shove down our throat. I'm no idiot. Okay. And third, it is a health crisis in this country. You got food in America that's illegal in other countries that they're serving up to you every day, and nobody even knows that it's that bad because the organic products are not that bad. But when your bread is not really bread and it's got dough conditioner in it, I mean, do you think that's healthy? They'll tell you it is and it's approved, but no, there's a difference between eating this or eating this, and that's what our country's facing right now. So I don't feel any sort of way. They could lie to people, they could act like they have the moral high ground, but they really don't. And if they cared, they would, promote healthy eating, healthy lifestyle, working out, exercising, being better, mental health. Instead, they destroy all that stuff. They sell pharmacy products, nonstop fast food commercials in the commercials. And then they advocate for government policies to take away people's stuff, to take away their access. And people, especially if you're middle class or poor, but even wealthy people, but in general, taking away their access to gyms and YMCAs and stuff because of lockdowns. I mean, you guys could lie to the world. You guys could do what you want to me. You could persecute who you want to persecute, but blood is on your hands, folks, for all of the mental, physical, and psychological abuse that you've pushed on people. This idea that big pharma is the only way to be healthy, and you guys never even prioritize diet, exercise, and, a healthy routine, getting out of your house, getting fresh air as opposed to being afraid of it. Blood is on your hands, folks. Everybody knows, people are catching on, and you guys should be absolutely ashamed of yourself, because I think deep down inside, people aren't this dumb. It's a lot of things going on, but I don't think anybody's this stupid. I think a lot of you guys know what you're doing. You're just trying to stay afloat, and the tides are going to turn, because when you do something that's unnatural and, against the grain, it falls apart eventually. It always does. Every evil regime it has fallen apart at some point. What comes has to eventually go. And I'll leave you guys on this, and I'm going to take off. I was talking to someone yesterday, and she was mentioning that, in Alcohol Anonymous, that they say, if you hit rock bottom, you have to hit rock bottom before you really figure it out. Where it's like, is this rock bottom? I would hope this is rock bottom, and then we could figure it out. But that happens in so many societies. People, it gets more evil, more twisted, more backwards. And it's so obvious now that, like, most people are starting to figure it out. But at the same time, it's like, does it need to go further? Like, is this rock bottom? I would guess it's pretty close. I mean, I guess it could definitely get worse. I hope not. But, hopefully that mentality applies to us, and hopefully this is rock bottom, and hopefully we can now, use the momentum to turn it around and create a more sane, moral, healthy society, because this is certainly not it for most people. And the bullying has to stop under the guise of helping them, hurting them, and telling them that they're helping them. That's some evil stuff. God bless you guys. God bless your family. God bless America. God bless the world. Appreciate you guys for hanging out and listening. The link's in the bio real quick. I have my Telegram. We're over 70,000 people. I have my email list. We're well over 100,000 something people, maybe like 140,000. Thank you to everybody signing up. That helps a lot. And somebody said that YouTube wasn't showing notifications and Telegram was. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what Telegram is for. So if you want to get a notification before I go live or see my videos when they come out, Telegram is the place to do it. And I'm using gab.com more, gab.com/dreamrare. On Gab, I'm already over 50,000 followers, thanks to Andrew Turba, who I think shares my stuff a lot. He's going to be on Tim Pool tonight. I can't wait to watch it, because I saw some clips from the Getter CEO. And Getter is pretending to be free speech, and they're already banning people for things that Twitter doesn't even ban people for. So you have a right-wing, free speech company literally banning more people than Twitter in some cases, and this is how they're starting. Twitter didn't even start this way. Facebook didn't even start this way. Getter's worse than Twitter and Facebook when they started. This is no way to start. And these GOP phony grifters pretending to be free speech people, it's not going to last the test of time. But the CEO of Gab, I've never heard him speak, but I see his tweets. I can't wait to watch it tonight, because it sounds like he's a real one. He sacrificed a lot, bought his own servers, got kicked off the app store. You can't even get a Gab app, but he's dedicated. He's saying no to everybody, left wing, right wing, foreign countries. He's like, no, this is a free speech app. We are not enforcing hate speech under policies of things that you don't want to have discussion and debate about. So I've been posting on there more, putting my live streams on Gab, and we're over 54,000 people. So thanks for following me on there. Appreciate y'all. Have a beautiful day, and I will be back very soon.